My name is Gia Marone, president of Women Grow, and here we are. Happy August, and we are thrilled to bring you our latest virtual, which is Supplier Diversity in Cannabis, and we're bringing it to you today with our partners, Curaleaf. We're excited with the showcase of women leaders that will come to you and share with you their businesses and how you business owner can apply for perhaps being the next Supply Diversity to Curaleaf. So tune in, stay tuned, and enjoy our virtual education today. See you soon.
Hello. Welcome again to another Women Grow live event. My name is Tanya Osborne. I am the Director of Community here at Women Grow, and I'm super excited to be here. We've done this conversation before, but we want to continue having it, to support our partner, but also to kind of light the fire under other cannabis brands to start their own initiatives around supplier diversity. So thank you everyone for joining us. I am really pleased to have one of our partners, Asya Hill from Curaleaf, join me today, and I'm going to bring her up so we can get our conversation started.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Asya. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Happy Friday. So let's jump right into this. So tell me, we all know, like, by definition, what supplier diversity is, but as it relates to Curaleaf, can you discuss the initiative from Curaleaf's vantage point?
For sure. So when we talk about supplier diversity here at Curaleaf, we're going to use our initiative 420 by 25. So in 2020, Curaleaf brought on our corporate social responsibilities team, and we did some assessments of where Curaleaf was, where we can be going, and where in which we can be a leader for the cannabis industry. One of the ways that we did that is really addressing supplier diversity in a very specific way. How can we work with 420 diverse vendors by the year 2025, 420 by 25. So the goal is to bring in any aspect of, not even just within the cannabis industry, but outside of the industry, diverse suppliers, diverse vendors, diverse businesses who can help us serve our goals as a company, but to do so while bringing in the demographics that really are being excluded from the cannabis industry on a regular basis. So this initiative is very near and dear to our team, to my heart. And it's just the way in which Curaleaf can start to set that standard. It is important to bring in diverse suppliers to the cannabis industry. We don't always have the ability to, as Black and brown folks, just start cannabis businesses. So instead, how can we work with businesses that have already been established, HVAC companies, electricians, photographers, consultants. It's a wide array of industries that we can really be tapping into and touching that don't have to just be within the cannabis industry.
And I love that because in working with Women Grow, obviously people ask me, how do I enter the industry all the time? And I usually tell people, do what you do in this space, but opportunities, resources, access is like, how do you do that? You know what I mean? So these initiatives are incredibly important because not only having, yes, we want to support our cannabis brands that are from diverse suppliers, but there's a really broader spectrum to all of that, which I appreciate. So when in selecting these diverse suppliers, what do you look for?
I mean, we're looking for, please note, the cannabis industry is ever changing, ever evolving. We're looking for businesses that can pivot, that can move, that can change, that can be professional, and all those things. Right. But when we're looking, this is a full Curaleaf goal. So all of our internal teams, we are advocating for them. When you're looking for a photographer, when you're looking for somebody to help with the interior design of a brand new dispensary, when you're looking for a construction company, let's branch out from your own network. Let's branch out from the folks that you just know, from the folks that you may have been recommended to by a friend or two. And really, let's dig into these communities that can also be serving these same goals. And so it's a way in which we can branch out our network and our community as a company to the communities that we are serving and that honestly have been disproportionately affected by the war on drugs and could use any and every way to get into our industry. So
Absolutely. Oh my God, that's so great. So what has been the feedback from some of the businesses who got into or that you've worked with? What was their feedback as a company from their vantage point? Do you know?
Somewhat. I mean, it depends on the types of businesses.
Sure.
So we talk about supplier diversity in a very broad aspect, but if we're thinking about cannabis ancillary businesses, for instance, for those of which we've been able to put into our retail spaces. So instead of, having just your typical raw cones, let's bring in rolling bouquet. Let's bring
Yes.
in, we have different cannabis apparel. Let's bring in buy weed from women and touch those points of, if you're already going to come into a dispensary and buy these products, let's make sure that they're diverse businesses that you're buying them from. Some of those businesses have seen 92% sell through. When we really amp up their voices, our customers, they react and they respond very well. And so we've had a lot of positive feedback.
That's fantastic. I actually know the folks from Rolling Bouquet from an event. I mean, we've done stuff. They were in our last supplier diversity conversation, and then I saw her out. It was so weird to see people in real life again. But I love that they are out here and doing the thing, and then they're also part of your infrastructure, which is really fantastic. So we're going to actually play one of our first videos from some of these people are not part of the Curaleaf 420 by 25. So as you see them, if you're another MSO or another cannabis brand who could utilize the services of these diverse suppliers, check them out. Our first one, we're going to drop it right now.
I love looking out at a room of people that are there to learn. My name is Maureen McNamara. I'm the founder and chief facilitator with Cannabis Trainers. Leading workshops and training has been my focus and my gig since the 1900s, a really long time. I love it. Training has really been what lights me up from the early days, whether that's leadership or communication, my own personal development. I'm a professionally trained coach, which allows me to connect with people on a variety of levels, helping them to eradicate barriers that are in their way. Back in 2014, I took my long history of training and transformed it into something to be a contribution to the cannabis industry. We created the first responsible vendor training program approved by state regulators and state health department. It's called Sell Smart. And we inspire people to know the rules and endeavor to never break them. We know how important that is in the cannabis industry, to understand the nuances of the regulations and to always strive to move this industry forward with integrity, compliance, and excellence.
So that was Maureen McNamara. She's actually been around for literally, like she said, the 1900s, which gives me pause, but that's a whole other conversation. So she develops SOPs and training programs for people that work at dispensary in larger companies, etc. I love her and her business. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring up our panelists. We have Nancy Warner from AssurePack, Christine Wilson from M2M Consulting, and Tiffany Woodman from Cannabella Lux. Hello, ladies. Let me bring everybody on up here. Hello. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you all so much. Some of you I've known for many years. Some of you I've known just a little while ago. So this is the ever-evolving cannabis industry. Oh, this is a great look. This is like women in cannabis, like extraordinaire. I'm loving this. So first, what I'd like to do is have each one of you. I'm going to start with Nancy. I'm going to do Nancy, Tiffany, and then Christine. Introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your business. Okay? We're going to start with Nancy.
All right. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. I started AssurePack in 2014 when they legalized cannabis in Colorado. After spending my career in the pharmaceutical packaging industry, I had a lot of expertise in child-resistant packaging, and it's a requirement in the cannabis space. And I saw what was being done and being used, and I thought, well, I think I can do this better. So I jumped in, and it's been a wild ride, and it's been really great. We have many different customers in many states. In Canada, we have developed many new child-resistant packages. We focus on categories such as edibles and pre-rolls, topicals, and try to come up with great solutions that are compliant and sustainable and friendly to branding and promoting products. And so it's been really a great experience.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Tiffany?
Hi, guys. I have a retail store called Cannabis, and it was basically founded because, much like Nancy, I saw the typical sort of smoke shops and head shops and where people could buy cannabis accessories, and I was like, no, I cannot go in there. I'm not comfortable in a safe space. I have so many questions. And so basically, I created a lifestyle hybrid boutique that showcases cannabis products on the ancillary end, as well as clothes, candles, lifestyle stuff. But much like Curaleaf, it's really important to me where the products come from. So everything that I carry and do, I know all about my suppliers and vendors and can tell you like their entire story. So it's been really fun, and it's also kind of branched out now that I do a lot of events and retreats, and I'm doing retreats now because the community is here and we want it, right? Women grow when we want it. So.
Thank you so much. Christine?
Hi, well, pleasure to be here. I have a digital marketing agency called M2M Consulting. We've been around for 11 years. And being a women-owned small business, obviously, it's taken big corporations specifically trying to work with smaller businesses and women-owned businesses that have helped me be where I am today. So many, many years ago, Marriott actually went out and looked for smaller businesses run by women to come in. And we were able to work with a huge national brand at a scale that allowed us to grow and become what we are today. So hats off to large companies that do this. It makes a huge difference. It helps us as a small business. I stay a small business on purpose. I like being small. I like how nimble and quick we can be. A lot of big companies now use us because of that. And so there's a lot of benefits, I think, to larger companies that realize there's a benefit here. So we do everything in the cannabis space, from website development, social media, influencer marketing, and digital advertising, which is probably the biggest thing that people in cannabis bang their head against the wall doing. And we've had a lot of success doing that and figuring out ways to work in that. So we work with everything from dispensaries to MSOs to product-based businesses. And it's been a huge opportunity. And we've, in the last 4 years, I think that's become about 25% of our business is in the cannabis space. So really enjoying it. And the really fun part is I work with a lot of companies that are owned and run by diverse folks. So whether they're minority owned or women owned, and it's so awesome to watch their success and get to be part of it. So I love that. So I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you so much, Christine. All right, so let's jump right in. So I know the only person right now who's part of the 420 by 25 is Cannabella Lux, Tiffany. But prior to this conversation or just your overall knowledge, because I honestly didn't, so I'm not, I consider myself to be not the smartest person in the room, but certainly not the dumbest. I did not know what supplier diversity meant. Were you familiar with this before this conversation or before cannabis, et cetera? I'll start with Nancy.
Okay, I'm familiar with supplier diversity, having been in large corporations in the pharmaceutical industry and having that aspect of it. In the cannabis space, it's been different for me as a woman-owned business, and I will tell you that 75% of my staff are women, so it's really woman-owned and operated.
Love that.
I have not gotten an official status of a woman-owned business, and I don't know if that's a hurdle or something that needs to be done, that maybe something that you can address
Yeah.
of what's necessary. And my customers know that we're a woman-owned business, but I don't think that has been at the forefront of how we've been succeeding in this business.
Okay, fantastic. And Christine, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been, important, to put out that we are a women-owned business. One, I find a lot of business owners have chosen to work with us specifically because of that. And that is so incredibly uplifting when that opportunity happens and somebody says that, and that's part of their decision making. But, I think one of the things is the good work that you do, right? That makes all the difference. And that's usually where referrals happen and people say, hey, they're able to do things that maybe you haven't been able to have success for. So we do try to make sure the women-owned business is there, but it is not the only reason to work with us. It's really the quality of the work.
Absolutely. But were you familiar with a supplier diversity program?
Oh yeah, I mean so that's really one of the things we put out there, whenever there is a supplier diversity program, we try to make sure that goes out there. But I wouldn't say, so we are aware, I wouldn't say that's where the vast majority of our work comes from. Really more of it comes referral based.
Sure.
So that I think in a lot of ways speaks to, the quality of the work. But supplier diversity programs have been important for a number of things that we've been, I mean, like I mentioned, Marriott, that was specifically an opportunity where they were looking to work and diversify who they were having their contracts with. So it was really important. That came about 3 years into
And
the
yeah, and
agency.
that's kind of what I think I didn't understand those types of initiatives. Do I think they're incredibly important? Abso-freaking-lutely,
Yeah.
And having them in cannabis outside, like you might not have had that Marriott opportunity had it not been that they were looking for women-owned brands.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So to have this be a conversation that we continue to have about companies, big, small, and whatever. If I use a supplier, and I'm a tiny company, I want to use my Cannabis side. I want to use a diverse supplier. Tiffany, prior to, same question. Did you understand or know of supplier diversity initiatives?
I will tell you, in cannabis, no, absolutely not. Curaleaf is the first one absolutely purposefully doing it. No, actually, like I talk about this a lot, which is like cannabis is predominantly white males and an ancillary. And as a Latina business owner, no, like for me, it's never been about the quality of work, because I'm sure we all do great work. It's the fact of getting in the door. So they don't get to see my work. They don't know the quality of the work because they're not being put out there. So for me, I live near a Curaleaf dispensary, and where I used to work, where I had a predominantly white male dominated workforce, it was the biggest like feeling of success, knowing, because I know they use cannabis, that they were going in there to the Curaleaf that was in this right by my job, and seeing my product and seeing me succeed as this Latina. It was like the biggest feeling. But I don't think enough people are purposely and intentionally doing this, and we need this, because as much as it's hard for a woman, then it's hard for a white woman, then it's hard for a Latina woman, and you go down the line of the access. So it's made a huge difference in my business, and I think I'm really hopeful that more people will be purposeful about doing this. I think you're really leading this, like, amazing.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So how many of you are, because we had a conversation briefly about it, are certified as MWBEs or women? You are certified as okay, cool. Asya, does that have any, does that count weight more if a person has an MWBE, or does it not?
I mean, it doesn't hurt, that is for sure. And it's not just for Curaleaf, it's for any business who is
Right,
really
right.
like intentionally seeking that diversity and diversity in their suppliers. It doesn't hurt, it's not necessary. The questions that we typically will ask a business as we're trying to qualify them as 420 by 25, are you, your founder, one of your founders, a woman, or identify as a veteran, identify as a part of the BIPOC community, a part of the LGBTQIA community, or have you been affected by the war on drugs or the collateral damage of the war on drugs? And that kind of broadens what the diversity in the supplier diversity looks like. Because you don't have to be a Black woman. You could be a white male, but a veteran, a white male veteran who's been arrested for cannabis-related crimes, and we would qualify you as 420 by 25. Right. And that's because within our industry, it's such a specific topic when we talk about what diversity looks like, and also who's been affected by the lack of legalization in cannabis. And that is not just people of color. We love to bucket it as people of color, but that is such a large spectrum. And so you don't have to have that certification. We would like to know those in which are who own your company, how do they identify? And that is going to help us identify you as 420 by 25.
Perfect. Thank you. So Tiffany, you are participating in the initiative, like your products are on Curaleaf shelves. How did that relationship begin?
So it kind of began. So I always shout out Annie DeCanter is one of our Curaleaf employees here, and she is like a wonderful Latina sister, amazing woman, just awesome. And so through my store and through relationships, I kind of, I met different people in the field. I was, a shopper, but really it was networking, having the same values, having people see the products in my store, the events, and so. I was very lucky that because she had seen my work, and in Chicago we have a great community that if you actually participate, people can see you. And so she was able to bring it up, and I was so honored to be a part of it. And like I said, I mean, I'm a believer in, like, if you're a good person trying to do good things and you're able to somehow, make these connections with people. I mean, sometimes it's luck and opportunity, but putting myself out there and then being very proudly, I am a Latina businesswoman. I never shy away from that. And I certainly don't, I know the quality of my work. So I'm not worried that someone's only using me to check off a box, because I will not let them use me to check off a box. That's really easy. You can tell when someone's not doing it the purposeful way that Curaleaf is. And you can tell when they're like, okay, you check a box, cool, we're going to throw you on and we're not going to do it. Curaleaf,
I agree 100%.
Me. They have been a really great partner, and they actually care about the story, not just that I check a box. They care about what I'm doing in the community, and that feels really nice to be seen.
I agree with that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So were you nervous about, because what if they wanted your product in every store across the country? How would you be able to maintain inventory? What have you? Was it a transition, an easy transition?
It was terrifying. It was, oh my God, terrifying, because Curaleaf was so kind about it and they liked my products. And I was like, how are we going to pay for the products on the front end and get this stuff ready? But you know what? Like, I'm also very lucky. One of the suppliers that I work with, they know me and like all of my stuff. So they were able to let me get some of it early, and Curaleaf paid very fast. So that was really helpful. I didn't have to wait like 90 or 120 days, because that would
right.
And they did not do that, and that was huge. But it was nerve-wracking, because you get this amazing opportunity, and then you're like, I have to come up with all this product, and I need to see what vendors are 60 to 90. And I opened at the beginning of the pandemic. January 2020 is when my retail brick and mortar in a very nice, safe neighborhood opened. And so, holy smokes. And I have to tell you, like, things like that not only financially help you, but they morally fill your cup, right? So literally getting texts from people, taking pictures of me, like people I hadn't talked to in a long time, like, that's you at the shelf. First of all, I was like, oh, you're at the dispensary. Okay. So didn't know that. Good for you, medicating. But also, like, that made me feel so good about continuing to go on my business, because I'm sure as women, we all have doubts about, like, what am I doing? How am I going to get this money? What's happening? And then it all worked out. And then people were like, we saw you on the shelves and we're seeing your products and we got your cones. And I was just like, I have goosebumps, but like, it's been really awesome. It was scary, but so worthwhile. And just, every time I go in there and I see it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm on the menu. What?
Oh, that's so exciting. That's so
It's
exciting.
really exciting. It's a gift that keeps giving,
Well, and I just want to jump in really quickly and say that to me is the success of a true supplier diversity program,
Yes.
where they understand a small business cannot possibly front the costs for a long period of time. And that is, why big opportunities sometimes elude small businesses. And so I think it sounds like Curaleaf really, hats off, because that's wonderful. And then now this success is going to just breed more success. So that's awesome. Gave me goosebumps.
Right? It's just really cool to understand that they see these opportunities. And then I also can buy, I got my sessions pipe from there, and I was able to support these other women and buy their product. I mean, they couldn't keep buy wheat from women's sweatshirts and toads up on the shelf, And so many people were getting access and being like, and the way that it's displayed and merchandise in the stores is meant for people to really see the quality of our product. So it's so beautifully displayed. You just are like, oh my God, what? So yeah, it's really cool. And I just hope that more brands see how purposeful and what Curaleaf is doing, and that they can give back in ways, they can do something that changes people's lives.
And if I could chime in also, that Curaleaf isn't the only one doing it.
Yeah.
That we need more big companies and more companies to, like you said, intentionally and purposefully seek out diverse suppliers. We're going to share another one right now, and then we're going to come back and continue our conversation. Sit tight.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Barrett, and I'm a pastry chef who has a passion for cooking with cannabis. It all started at a young age when someone in the kitchen said, "Hey, Kim, can you make a lollipop?" But I didn't have any testing facilities or access, to resources or materials. And so I started the science, brain thinking, but just really focused on my professional pastry skills. And so I attended the Culinary Institute of America, where I just loved working with high mass, production of food and baking and pastry, and just kind of focused on that. But then in 2010, I lived with someone who went through stage 3 breast cancer, and I really saw the need for, this person just getting comfort and doing that through a food management with cannabis wellness. So in 2016, I packed up my stuff and I went over to the West Coast to learn more about what this industry really entails, as far as the plant processing, the culture, the needs, the solutions, and really just understanding what this is all about. Throughout the time, I came back and I really saw that this industry needs to help medical patients trust edible confections and melt away the fear behind cannabis. With my professional training in pastry and my farm working hands, I'm ready for the New York market. With building out a future company, it's exciting because it allows me to create a proper foundation on what matters most. Being a woman in a male-dominated culinary industry and cannabis industry, I want to make women feel, that they are respected, heard, and safe. Supplier diversity is like Curaleaf for 20 by 25 are great because it supports businesses like mine. Thank you to Women Grow, as always, for taking me in 2017. And thank you to Curaleaf for allowing me this opportunity.
So that was a dear friend from our community in New York. She, when I first took over the market in 2017, she was establishing herself, and the support that I got, I'm so proud that she's going to be applying for New York for processing, and that was Kimberly Barrett. She's a pastry chef here in New York State. And then we have another spotlight at the end that as we wrap up. So want to talk to Nancy for a minute. Nancy, you've been in packaging, operating cannabis for a while, as you shared. And what has been your experience in the market from the packaging perspective? And I'll follow it up because you could probably answer them simultaneously. Do you think that you're treated fairly in your search for opportunities?
Well, I think it's challenging as a woman-owned business to compete, and I think that I can't say I have been treated unfairly. I think that I try to compete on a level playing field, offering great products, great service, great engineering support. We do a lot of customization. I have very technical, sophisticated people who support my business and my suppliers. So we're doing it at a very high level. And we're doing a lot of things such as establishing new ground. Like I bring my pharma background and expertise so that we're doing shelf life testing to offer airtight and doing the testing and to back up what we say with real testing. That, you know, I'm the first person out there doing that, trying to raise the level of awareness and the sophistication of the industry. And so it's hard to be the first one when people start copying you and then try to get ahead of you. It's very challenging, but I'm always trying to be one step ahead and trying to innovate. And I think our customers appreciate it, but it's tough getting the word out there. And during the pandemic and not doing as many trade shows, and the marketing part is how do you reach people? How do you reach more people
Right.
who need your services? I think that's the most challenging part of this.
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know how many women-owned packaging companies there are in cannabis, but I only know you. So, so I don't know what that means, but I only know you. So, and I'm not saying that, but I know a lot of other packaging companies in general, but I don't know many women-owned ones.
Well, I think our business is a little different in that all of our packaging is unique and proprietary to AssurePack. We've developed it. I have patents on many of our packages. We're not selling stock items and competing on price. We're doing very sophisticated, unique, custom packaging, and so that's how we differentiate ourselves. And I think that's because we have a very strong technical and experiential background that we bring to the space.
Fantastic. Thank you. Christine, you have a marketing company. So your business obviously is different from Nancy's. What has been your experience? The question is a difference in the access to large opportunities differ for you?
I mean, it definitely does. And I've seen in cannabis, you know, there's been a number of times where I haven't been selected because I'm not the big name, you know, and I know that. And there is an assurance. A lot of times when a decision maker has to go back to the boss and say, well, we picked the firm that everybody knows and it's big and it's going to cost us a fortune, but it, you know, everybody knows them. You can't blame me, right? Can't blame me for that choice. And so we're always looking for people who either one have been maybe somebody in the cannabis space that was overlooked themselves. And so they're, like I said, proactively excited to work with a woman-owned business. Also people who might want to be a little bit more innovative and strategic with how they spend their money. So, you know, the secret to a lot of things people don't realize is, you know, over the years, very large, you know, international PR firms and agencies have used us as a subcontractor to do their work, right? And so there's lots of big brands paying a very large amount of money to still ultimately work with me. And
very interesting.
Yeah. So I sometimes go into a pitch meeting and I'll say, well, by the way, this campaign with this major brand was actually, you know, done by us. And I'm allowed to tell you that. And here's where you would have saved a lot of money, you know, working with a smaller agency. And also one of the biggest things is, you know, we build out case studies with our clients because we want them to be able to say, when you work with a small agency, one, we turn things around really fast, right? So you're not waiting for months for a video. You're not waiting for weeks for a graphic. You're not waiting, you know, for things that a larger agency maybe has 15 steps to get to the end. And it takes a long time. But two, we also we're really scrappy. We're really scrappy. And there's a reason why a lot of these big agencies, if you go to them and say, hey, I have a cannabis product, maybe it's CBD, it's, there's no worries about its legality or anything. I want to run advertising. And these big agencies will say, oh, we're not touching that. We already know we can't do it. And you come to someone like M2M and we say, hey, guess what? We've figured out some ways to make this work. And we've done it, because we are smaller and scrappier, and we've come up with some really interesting ways. And we don't need to just say we won't try, right? We have clients that really are relying on us to try. So that's been really cool. But we also have this great 10-year track record to share with people. So, when I can go in with a big brand, I usually have a very compelling story to tell. That I have purposefully stayed small. I'm not small because I can't, I don't work with great brands and do amazing work. So, yeah. Well, I think you're muted.
You said something that I found really funny, only because you said that you turn over stuff really quickly, and bigger companies take 15 steps to get one thing done. And I worked for a fleeting moment for a company doing admin, and I would be like, well, let's just do it. She was like, oh, we got to ask this person who has to ask this person who has to get clearance from that person. And I'm like, well, this is why I've been self-employed for 40 years, because I cannot do that. So I can understand why you'd want to utilize a smaller business, because they can get stuff done, at a quicker rate, and not have to check with. I can imagine, Curaleaf, Asia was nodding her head. I can imagine what has to happen, and the Venn diagram of all of them that you need to check in with. So, well, you kind of answered my next question, Christine, was if you, and you can, if you had to pitch your business for consideration, what would you say to have people look at you? But you already did that, but if you want to give me a summation, you're very to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think one of the things I would do is I would show just the amazing brands that we are working with in the cannabis space and the success, right? So coming in with really great case studies and being able to say, look at the traffic we've been able to drive, look at the influencers we've been able to work with, look at what we've been able to do from a, selling product perspective. The other thing is, a lot of times in cannabis, it's helping people build their own thought leadership and their own personal brand,
right?
And so that's something we have a great track record with. So there's a lot of different angles I probably would go in a pitch, obviously, depending on what the needs were. But I love that I would be given the opportunity. I would use the track record as the way to be able to convince someone to work with us.
And Nancy, I'd love to ask the same to you. Like, if you had to pitch your business, what to a large company, which I know you've done already, but what would you say?
Well, I would show case studies also of the successes that we have and how we can support the demands. And I've deliberately designed and have a wide range of packaging options that we offer to people that are either stock, customizable stock, or custom. So if you're a small company and you only want to buy 1,000 or 5,000 packages, I wanted to make sure that we could have our offerings to support small business as well as large businesses. And that was a deliberate decision on my part, because I don't want to just go after the big guys. Okay, it's just not where I'm at. And I agree that I'm not the biggest packaging company. I had no intentions of becoming the largest packaging company in the space, but we do what we do very well and offer very unique solutions and great service to our customers.
I appreciate that, because I know, like, as New York, especially because that's where I am. So if I always talk about New York, that's where I live. So a lot of folks here in New York specifically are going to be applying for processing, and some of these edible brands that already have a track record and legacy are going to be transitioning into the legal market. Packaging is a big issue, because a lot of these bigger companies want you to buy 10, 20,000 units. And if you're a small company and you could barely get through 1,000, what are you going to do with 10,000? You know what I mean? So having companies that will cater to small businesses but can also handle big business is a really sweet spot to be in.
That's what we've tried to do. Things like when we have pouches, I inventory unprinted pouches, so somebody getting started can just buy the unprinted pouches and put digital labels or small quantity labels. And we've deliberately offered this type of service and options to customers starting out, and we really try to help them.
Fantastic. So what would it mean to your business? And I'm going to also include Tiffany in this. What would it mean to your business to have a contract or a relationship with a large cannabis business? I'm going to start with, I know Tiffany, you already have this, but maybe getting more shelves on more brands, you know? What it mean and what did it mean for your business?
So for me, it was a really big feeling of like when everyone has imposter syndrome, am I doing this? It was a really big way to be like, no, I'm here, I'm doing this. And I think it comes down to it's huge and it's great. But a lot of it, right, I'm still local now. So like for me, it's to grow the relationship with Curaleaf, to say, hey, I have some different products to grow with them, to get more people in. And then I think for other brands, I mean, I love the cones that we sell, right? And I really believe like when you see raw cones everywhere, I'm like, okay, but Blazy Susan's a brand that's actually great, or these cones that I have is really great. And so I always say, like, I don't care white label myself. I want the good product that I carry to get there. And it's kind of funny because I'm going to bring back the question you asked them earlier, like pitching yourselves. You know, for me, it's having to pitch myself, right? And what makes my business different. And one, it's the quality of what I pick. It's the fact that I think they should consciously support me as a Latina woman. And I think they should be purposeful and say, hey, look, you're not only supporting me, but you're supporting like my business partner who's a Latina woman, the people that buy from me, the vendors that I use are often women, queer, people of color. Like when you support me, you're not supporting one person. And so I want them to understand, and for these large companies, I want them like, use my cones. Hi, we're here. Use my pretty cones. I always say, the best thing as well with a large business doing your brand is there's multiple ways to partner. So I always joke, I'm going to have a Cannabella Kush, okay, and I'm going to have a strain. But the truth is, that's how you build these things or events, right?
Yeah.
So not just to break in, but I do Cannabella Lux, a retail store, but I also do High Potential Agency, a marketing agency, and I own an herbal CBD company called Sky and Wyatt. So part of it is saying like, hey, I have an organic herbal CBD company. I'm looking to, take to THC or to offer different kinds of relief. How do you turn the partnership into something more even? I think it's by being a good partner. So one thing I'd say to both these questions is you have to decide, are you thinking short term or are you thinking long term with your partnership? Are you trying to make a quick buck? Or are you actually trying to have a partnership? Is it transactional or transformational? So if I want to make a quick dollar, I can try to outquote everybody or, do this and make that quick deal. But I don't want those kinds of partnerships. And I think to these ladies, when you want to stay small, it's because you want certain kind of partnerships. You're not willing to risk headaches for making a little bit of extra money. When we stay small purposely, it's because we can curate our experiences in business. So that just to me is why I think it's so vital to say, like, are you having a relationship and partnership?
Yes.
So I know that with especially other woman-owned businesses, especially Women of Color, but any woman business, I will always say, look, we're all struggling in the marketplace. We all don't have extra cash. How can we trade services? How can we collaborate? So then together, maybe Curaleaf sees both of our brands together, or a Cresco or whatever brand it is, and you have that collaboration, and now there's more success there in this long-term partnership. So
I agree with that 100%. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Nancy, what would a relationship with a large company, a partnership like that mean for your business?
Well, when we have relationships with larger companies and larger brands, it helps us get additional volume and more stability in our supply chain. And it helps us in general keep our costs down for everyone. It's been very challenging having a packaging business the last couple of years with supply chain issues. And, I was going through the headaches of having a, container offshore, sitting in the ocean for months and then paying outrageous amounts of money for shipping costs from overseas, and it's just been very challenging. So I think dealing with larger customers, and I think even the larger businesses in the cannabis space are not yet able to forecast and predict well to provide companies like myself enough information to really prepare and order and support the supply chain. It's really, it's pushing downward, you know? So everybody wants everything available now. Well, who's going to have it on hand, you know? And it flows down to me, you know? So I better have the inventory. If not, they're going to go somewhere else to buy it. And that's very challenging to manage.
Understood. Thank you. Christine, what would these large relationships mean for your business?
Well, I mean, I mentioned at the top of the hour, you know, that relationship with Marriott did everything for me, right? It took me from a couple people sitting at a kitchen table to becoming a real agency. So in cannabis, you know, I think, you know, obviously as you work with larger brands, it brings legitimacy. People really, you know, they value that, right? If this brand trusted you and works with you. So, and being a small business, you need that. You do need to help build that credibility and that legitimacy. So I think one, it would open a lot of doors. But two, I think along the same thing, it gives my employees something very exciting to work with. When we have larger budgets, when we have clients that can really do things, we're able to show incredible results. So when we work with a small business and the budget is really small for advertising or influencer fees, you know, we have great stories, but they're not the same. So when we work with a big brand, we get to show some really incredible results. So that's always, one, a lot of fun, and two, it's a nice feather in our cap from a case study perspective too.
Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So Asya, when you connect with companies like these, in addition to the spotlights that we're airing, what advice would you give them to build relationships with companies like Curaleaf and other companies?
I would say it depends on the type of business. If you're outside of the cannabis industry and you're really trying to find avenues to jump in with the work that you're already doing, just know that it is a ever-changing, fast-moving, quick-paced industry. So you just need to learn how to pivot, how to be responsive. And I think that's why a lot of the times we love to go to smaller businesses, because they have that attention to detail, and we have those personal relationships. When we go to larger firms, you know, we will be one of many on a long list. And so when we ask for one or two things, that can take a very long time. But when we're going to these smaller businesses, as long as you understand that sometimes things do shift and change, and we may ask for something last month that this month is completely different, just because that's the state of the industry. But when these smaller businesses are able to adapt and pivot, that only just adds to our wanting to continue to work with them and to develop those businesses and develop those relationships.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have one last spotlight, and then we're going to come back and kind of wrap things up. Okay, everyone sit tight.
Hi, my name is Iana Lawson, owner of Front Row Travels. You may have seen me at the 2019 Canna Tank competition or read about me in Forbes or Condé Nast. Front Row Travels is a full-service cannabis travel agency, and we cultivate tours and events for canna lovers so that they can consume freely, openly, and without judgment. Front Row Travels was created with Black women in mind. We suffer from the highest rates of stress, anxiety, and depression, yet we are the least likely to seek help. That needs to change. Although cannabis use has been shown to reduce those same factors, there's still a stigma in the Black community when it comes to cannabis, plant medicine, and using it to heal in general. Again, we're here to break that stigma through travel and education. I want to thank Women Grow and Curaleaf for inviting us to this much-needed supplier diversity initiative. Thanks.
Love her. She was on a spotlight a couple of years ago, but I don't know any cannabis travel company, so I was like, ooh, that's a nice fit. Okay, so we have one last question. This is going to be posed to everybody. What should cannabis companies outside of Curaleaf consider when thinking about developing their own supplier diversity initiatives and programs? What do you think other cannabis companies should be doing or looking for if they want to replicate something like this? I'm going to start with Tiffany.
Oh, good. I'm so ready for this one.
Okay.
Okay, so it's going to be a few questions. So number one, I think it starts with their own internal hiring, because the more diverse you hire internal and you put people in decision-making positions, they're able to then use that base and say, like, okay, I know that I consciously also want to pass this on. So the value system of who they hire, who makes the decision-making, is vital, right? And then two, I think they just, again, have to really consciously decide, like, the value system. If you are an all white board, or all cis white straight male board, or your company holder, and then your advertisements have like women, queer people, and you're doing this, but you're not paying them at the top and using them as suppliers, it's a brand fail. So I think it's looking at your brand story and your ethos of saying who you are, and then saying, okay, I purposely want to look at my supply chain. So if I'm doing an event, if I'm buying a jar that, if I want to look at Nancy, I want to look at all of us and say, like, this is all the people. Obviously, there's a level of work we need to be, but also understand that it's harder for a woman to break into a regular marketing field or a regular packaging field, which these are not female dominated fields as well, or smoke shops. None of us are in, even outside of cannabis, female dominated industries. Okay. So this ancillary is already one male dominated. So being conscious also of when you're hiring, looking down the road at who they hire, and just honestly just making a decision. Do it. Just say, why am I hiring who I'm hiring? Does my friend or the main person have enough business that I really can diversify and get the same quality of work? Am I willing to take a chance on someone, like maybe someone took a chance on me? So they need to take chances, look at the long term about relationship goals, and say, hey, I could start with a small business and we could grow together. They'll be happy that we're working with them. We're going to be happy we have this new person. And all of a sudden, you've created a great relationship. And now you can go repeat that process because it happened. So just conscientiously do it, hire from within, and just put people and the decision-making abilities to want to do this for us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Co-star is what I always say. Put your money where all of your co-star, and be conscientious about it.
Absolutely. Christine, what would you tell a cannabis brand who wanted to start a supplier diversity initiative? What should they know?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is make it really clear what the requirements are, what you're looking for, where the opportunities are. I think one of the biggest challenges for a lot of us small businesses is the person running the business is also the one doing a lot of the business development. And so, I mean, as much as we would love to spend a lot of time digging in and trying to figure out how to win the business, it can be really challenging. I have about 20 people that work for me. I do the business development primarily. I want to jump in on these opportunities. And I just sometimes am not totally clear on what I need to do. So I think making it clear. And like you said, I think really, truly having the opportunity to not want to check the box and really want to make the relationship work with one of these businesses, I think is huge. I think, and some patience in knowing that we don't have necessarily a big sales team, it's us, it's the women you're seeing here. Yeah. And that we're going to be a little bit different in the resources we have, but that doesn't mean that we aren't going to be a great partner.
Thank you. Nancy?
Well, I would say it's important in companies who are going to take this on to make sure that this becomes part of the culture of the company. I'm not sure how do you do that, but it has to be within all the decision-making processes as part of the culture, so that my coming to a company and presenting packaging solutions that I think are great would have like just a realization that this is a woman-owned business, and we need to support this. I haven't found that really, and I would be very happy to have that happen.
So, thank you so much, Nancy. So, Asya, I'm curious, and I know you kind of already answered this, but I want to say it again. What did Curaleaf see that they felt it was so important for them to create that initiative? Because you have it. You're the only one that I know that has it. Obviously, it was done because of all the things that we said here, but it's, we've got quite a few MSOs in the country, quite a few. You know what I mean? That's all I'm gonna say. So, so the need was there, obviously, from Curaleaf's vantage point, or was it that all these women or people in general were just like, come on? So I don't know. What was it, the loudest voice, or did you feel that you need to address the need?
I think it's a lot of all of that. Like I mentioned earlier, like our corporate social responsibilities team was only developed in 2020. And so we really started to take an internal look at what Curaleaf's corporate structure was. And we realized that there's spaces that there are gaps. There's gaps in diversity. There's gaps in inclusivity and all of the spaces in which we want to be. And so we set goals. The first thing is to set those goals. We know where we're at. We see where we're starting. How can we get to where we want to be? The CSR, corporate social responsibilities team, is extremely diverse. And so when we start to make these decisions, these are coming out of diverse spaces. And so when we are seeking diverse businesses, it's because we are doing that intentional hiring, as Tiffany mentioned. So we see these gaps. We're looking at our vendors, we're looking at our suppliers, and we're realizing that people in our company, which is at the time not as diverse as we would have wanted it to be, are hiring people within their network, which is not as diverse as we want it to be. So how do we fix that? How do we hire more diversely? How do we seek people outside of those networks? And then also, now that we're bringing in more diverse employees, we can start to dig into their networks. Yes. And they start to pull in all these different vendors that we would have never had access to. Supply diversity has many layers. It's first that intentional outreach, but how do we maintain that? I think you spoke to all of this so well, but there's one thing to just reach out to a diverse business, but how do you maintain that relationship? How are we displaying your products properly? How are we making sure that you feel comfortable as one of our vendors, outside of the fact that we have brought you on for a portion of being your diversity status, but in addition to that, the work that you're actually doing, and make you feel that we're amplifying your voice in our own spaces. And so we want to make sure that any businesses that are doing supplier diversity, it's not the first step, yes, is that search, but the next step is really making sure that when you're bringing in these businesses, they feel comfortable, they feel happy, they feel as if you are working with them where they're at and growing. And those are all what it takes to have a successful supplier diversity program.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to chime in here, and I know you've all kind of said it, is one of the big things for me is there needs to be a bridge between the community that's been here, especially in New York, way before we had medical use, and we don't even have adult use yet. But this community that has been there, I always felt that there was a gap between corporate cannabis and community cannabis. And I think there's some companies in New York specifically that are doing, like Curaleaf, that are really doing that bridge to community. Because you're not going to know who's been doing this like OG style unless you go out of your office and go meet them, and they're willing to have these conversations, but you have to come out of your corporate bubble and come into community. And a few companies have done that, and I'm really excited that Curaleaf has been one of them. So as we wrap up, wanted to just say one thing as far as everyone, there's a call to action that we are doing. As you know, there's a lot more adult use states coming on board. So excited about that. I'm a caregiver here in New York State and big on medical. And I feel in a lot of states when they go adult use, the medical program suffers. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying this to everyone here and to our community at large, is to please find your legislatives, be active in the policy around adult use so that it continues to support our medical programs. I don't think grandma who has arthritis and whatever else she's got is going to go talk to a bed tender. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think she needs to go talk to a doctor, or Mr. So-and-so with his Parkinson's needs to go speak to a pharmacist. Not poo-pooing on bud tenders at all. But you know the deal. We want to have people, I think the path to least resistance for adult use is always medical.
Oh yeah.
So that is my little. I'm getting off my soapbox now.
No, but you're right, because I always say that you go from being a medical bartender to a retail sales associate, and it's two completely different experiences. Not to minimize it, but it's one is to help a patient find relief, and one is to make the transaction to make the sale. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with either. That's what it's supposed to be for. But I think, like you probably believe, like I do, I believe everyone using cannabis is medicinal because
Same.
so. But it's just a different buying experience. So, but I agree with you. Like if you're able to keep that relationship with the client and say like, hey, how can we help you the patient? Like, how can we give you this relief? It's different. So, preach, girl.
Exactly. I appreciate you, Mama. Okay, so as we wrap up, I want everyone to I'm going to start with Christine, then do Nancy, and then do Tiffany. Just tell everyone where we can find you, and then we're going to start wrapping it up.
All right. Well, we are at mtomconsulting.com, and all of our social handles are at M2M Consulting. And we are doing live streams, educating. We try to put a lot of content out, and we work with a lot of clients actually in the cannabis space, putting out cannabis educational content. So we are big proponents of educational content. So we will share that sometimes on our social channels too, so you can check it out there.
Fantastic. Thank you. Nancy?
Well, I think the best way to reach us is on our website is AssurePack. It's ASSURPACK. There's no E in the middle.com. And we have a lot of content on our website. We do a lot of news, and we write a lot about current topics of compliance and branding and new innovative packaging ideas. So please reach out and join us.
Fantastic. And Tiffany?
You can find me on Instagram at ChapCannabella or the Cannabella. You can find us online at CannabellaLux.com or HighPotentialAgency.com. But pretty much anything Cannabella, you can find me. And I apologize in advance for all the reels.
Reels are the new thing, girl, on Instagram. They are the new thing.
Yeah, if you want to laugh and enjoy cannabis, my partner makes me do awesome reels. So find me there and just have a laugh.
I love it. I love it. And we have a little slide for Asia. This is just, I want to just share. There is a place to go to have your business considered to be, and it's just so like we're here. You know what I mean? So I want to just pop that on screen. We did a little tiny URL. It's the Curaleaf potential vendor form, just to see if, have you be on their radar. We're not saying that that's going to confirm a relationship, but if you want them to know who you are, that's a great place to start. Right, Asia?
Yep, perfect. And we will just take all those inquiries. We can, send them off to the correct channels. And if your business ties in with what our business is looking for, it's the first step.
Perfect. All right, everyone. I think we are going to wrap it up. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today out in wherever you are. And thank you so much to our guests. Thank you, Asia Hill from Curaleaf. Thank you, Nancy from AssurePack. Thank you, Christine from M2M Consulting. And thank you, Tiffany from Cannabella Lux. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. And you'll see again the list for the link if you want to have your business considered. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.